Respected experts are now telling us that at least 60% of all chronic illness is caused by lifestyle. Diseases such as diabetes, heart problems, respiratory problems, and yes, even cancer are often the result of an unhealthy lifestyle. It has always been the entire focus of medical doctors to treat the sick. But unfortunately, the deteriorating health of our nation is crushing our healthcare system. Going back in time, there were another group of practitioners whose entire focus it was to keep people healthy, to keep people well.
Wellness.
Wellness, a state of well-being free from disease.
My name is Richard Durwald, and I've been involved in fitness and wellness for more than 60 years. And one thing's for sure, it's much more logical and much less expensive to try and prevent illness than it is to try and cure it. And basically, that's the wisdom of wellness. All of the wellness pioneers profiled in this production lived and worked at a site in the small town of Dansville, New York. The residents of Dansville used to call this site the Castle on the Hill. It's now being called the Castle of Wellness.
Looking at these makeshift stairs, it's hard to imagine that this entryway once greeted the rich and famous from around the world. It's sad to look at the decaying exterior of this once magnificent structure. Walking through the interior, it's shocking to witness the effects of more than a half-century of neglect, abuse, and vandalism. Why was the elegant lobby of this once world-renowned health center left to be ravaged by the sands of time? After all, this is the Castle of Wellness, the Castle on the Hill in Dansville, New York. The world we live in today will be a much different place had this building never existed.
Because we're big fans of the castle.
Why?
Because it's history.
It's history?
Today, doctors tell us about the importance of drinking adequate amounts of water for good health. One of the very first to identify the connection between water and wellness was Dr. Caleb Jackson. Dr. Jackson chose the site in Dansville, New York because of the availability of pure, fresh spring water found on the castle grounds.
1798. When Dansville's pioneer settlers discovered that a new spring had burst forth from the hill, sending water cascading down the slopes. In 1858, Dr. James Caleb Jackson came to town, and under his oversight, the resort he called Our Home on the Hillside attained a national reputation. Dr. Jackson was an advocate of an alternative therapy known as the water cure, which was based on abstinence from all fatty foods, sugar, and alcohol, replaced by a natural diet of fresh fruits, vegetables, and the use of pure, clean water applied externally and internally.
Dr. Jackson was a alternative medicine person, and they and the traditional medical people didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things at that point. Alternative medicine, they were interested in healthful living, things of that nature. The traditional medical people viewed all of these people with suspicion, if not outright hostility, and the feeling was mutual.
It's hard to believe that any group would take exception to Dr. Jackson's prescription for wellness, but nonetheless, that was the case. That prescription simply included pure, fresh, clean water, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, fresh air, and exercise. Today we call that a healthy lifestyle. Just go into any major supermarket and I'll guarantee you, you're going to find at least one full aisle dedicated to the sale of cold breakfast cereal. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it all started with Dr. Jackson, the Castle of Wellness in Dansville, New York. And that's a little-known fact.
A little-known fact is that Dr. Caleb Jackson was the inventor of granola, which was the very first cold breakfast cereal. With granola, Dr. Jackson hoped to replace the standard American breakfast, which then consisted of pork and potatoes. The basic ingredient of granola consisted of whole grains. Guests at our home on the hill were so enthusiastic about granola, they requested that the cereal be shipped to them when they returned home. Enthusiasm for granola increased to the point that to meet the growing demand, Dr. Jackson constructed and operated the first cold cereal processing facility in the nation on Main Street in the village of Dansville. By some coincidence, in 1887, another sanatorium operator, Dr. Harvey Kellogg, also developed a cereal and also called his product granola. Word of Kellogg's new cold breakfast cereal quickly spread, and when it reached Dr. Jackson, he sued Kellogg for infringement on his brand name. A settlement was reached, and Dr. Kellogg changed the name of his cereal to granola with an O. John Post, shown here with his daughter Marjorie, also operated a sanatorium in Battle Creek and started another cereal company with the introduction of his Post Grape Nuts brand, thus earning Battle Creek the prestigious title of cereal capital of the world. Due to the much larger manufacturing and distribution channels by both Post and Kellogg, the sales of granola plummeted, and the Jackson family discontinued the manufacture of granola. The Sunrise Diner now occupies the former site of the old granola building. Assisting Dr. Jackson in his efforts in Dansville was Dr. Harriet Austin, a female physician in an era when female physicians were almost unheard of. She was an ardent believer in women's dress reform and, inspired by the likes of Amelia Bloomer, created what she called the American costume, in which the traditional floor-length woman's garment was replaced by a shorter-length dress, coupled with trouser legs to preserve the modesty of the times. Female patients at the Water Cure were encouraged to wear Dr. Austin's American costume and leave the uncomfortable and unhealthy whalebone corsets in the closet.
It was happening in Paris and it was happening in New York City. But one of the most important changes in women's fashion was the one that occurred in Dansville, New York, where the work of Dr. Harriet Austin hearkened the beginning of the end of those whalebone corsets that constricted and restricted the function of vital organs. This was a great step forward in women's health.
Well, I just have to say I had no idea that Dansville was such an important part of the American history, especially for the women's movement. If it wasn't for Dansville, I could still be wearing one of those skirts that was down around my ankle.
That's
Most children are taught about the heroic Civil War service of Red Cross founder Clara Barton, but some facts are not taught. For example, her little-known but critical connection to the castle in Dansville.
Clara Barton. She was truly a real American hero. But following the Civil War, her health was failing. As a matter of fact, some thought that her life was in jeopardy. And on the advice of friends, she traveled to Europe to go to a sanatorium there run by physicians who they hoped and thought could restore her health. While she was in Europe, she learned about the International Red Cross and the great work that they were doing over there. As it worked out, she did not feel any better. Her health wasn't being restored, but she was encouraged because she wanted to come back to America and she wanted to start an American Red Cross.
Home again in the United States, Clara Barton dedicated herself to organizing an American branch of the International Red Cross. Clara Barton came to Dansville in 1876 at the age of 55. For 2 years, she was a patient of Dr. James Jackson at our home on the hillside. also known as the Jackson Sanatorium. Clara was so fond of her friends and supporters here that she remained a resident for the next 10 years. Clara Barton was born on December 25th, 1821, and died at the age of 90 on April 12, 1912. She established the first chapter of the American Red Cross in this community on August 22, 1881. This was probably one of the greatest humanitarian efforts ever attempted by an individual at her age and at this period in our country's history. Clara Barton's life was dedicated to suffering humanity. In her own words,
"The general means for promoting health is through proper food, water, bathing, dress, sunshine, open air, and pleasant surroundings. Little or no medication are relied upon."
Little or no medication is needed. No doubt that's a concept that Clara Barton learned while being a patient under the care of Dr. Jackson at the Castle of Wellness. Two other things are very noteworthy. The first being she expanded the charter of the American Red Cross to include what she called the American Amendment, which called for not only taking care of the wounded soldiers in the battlefield, but also taking care of everyone in time of disaster, such as Hurricane Katrina. And based on her own experience, she also introduced the concept of teaching wellness to the community. By the way, that's a concept that even today is being expanded by that great organization started by that great American Clara Barton we now know as the American Red Cross.
I have a t-shirt from the American Red Cross, the Lifesaver t-shirt. And you know, if it wasn't for Dr. Jackson and the Castle of Wellness, we may never have seen Clara Barton recover from her illness, and we may never ever have the American Red Cross as we know it today. I was 30 pounds heavier than I am today, and it was not muscle. I was not healthy. I was a registered nurse, eating junk food, not exercising. And you know what? It occurred to me that I needed to walk the talk. You know, I'm trying to help people be healthy and feel good and improve the quality of their life. I needed to do it myself. And so 30 years ago, I started teaching fitness. But I quickly realized that it wasn't just about fitness. It just wasn't about working out. It was also about eating right. And you know what? It goes hand in hand. You need to eat right and exercise to look great, feel great, reach your goals, get things done. And there are so many benefits to eating right and exercising. Of course, preventing disease is the number one thing that motivates me.
Robbie, thank you very much for joining me today.
Well, thank you. It was my pleasure, Richard. I know, you know, you're a pioneer in the industry, and my gosh, you've been promoting health and wellness for so long, so I'm honored to be in this.
Thank you very much. 60 years it's been.
Oh gosh,
yeah,
can't believe that.
And for you it's been about 3 or 4 months. Is that right?
I wish.
I would like to finish this up with telling everybody watching this the advantages of a wellness lifestyle. Throw away all the books, because a wellness lifestyle will improve your relationships.
It'll improve the quality of your life.
It'll make you feel better.
Your level of fitness.
It'll make you look better.
Your body composition.
And it'll make you be better.
Your health, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Is that all?
Oh my gosh.
A wellness lifestyle. Wake up and live a wellness lifestyle. Transform your lifestyle. Transform your life.
You can do it.
Absolutely. We did.
Yes, we did.